We're in the process of releasing my older books as ebooks, and today I want to talk to you about our latest release, which is this one, In the Light of Death. I first wrote it in 2002, and it's a book which is very close to my heart because not only does it draw on my own experience of awakening and all my studies of the spiritual traditions of the world, it also draws on a very important experience for me of working with people who were dying and bereaved for a period when I was younger, which brought me very close to the horrors of death on the one hand, and yet also the wonder and the spiritual opening that happens around death. And this book was me stepping right into that difficult and profound area and wanting to say something of value, say something which could help us see death in a full way. No, not just negatively, but not just wishful thinking positivity either, but in its fullness. And the secret to that is love, in my opinion. So rather than talk about the book, I thought I'd just read you the introduction just to give you a flavour, and I thought it'd be a fun thing to do. And it starts with a quote from the Buddha. "This life of ours is as transient as autumn clouds. To watch the birth and death of all beings is like looking at the movements of a dance. A lifetime is a flash of lightning in the sky. It rushes by like a torrent down a steep slope." An event of incomparable importance awaits you. This moment, compared to which all the dramas of your life pale into insignificance, is an inevitability you can neither predict nor avoid. You don't know when it will happen or how it will happen, but happen it will. And not just to you, but to me also. Indeed, to all of us at different times and in different ways. You'd think that the existence of such mysterious fate would dominate our thoughts and be a constant source of conservation and speculation. Yet this extraordinary event is strangely ignored. More than ignored, it is avoided. This mystery is so big, it scares us into silence. So final, it frightens us frozen. So far beyond our everyday experience that most of us choose to live without acknowledging it at all. That is, until circumstances outside our control force us to stop pretending to ourselves and face the awesome truth. Life ends in death. To bring our attention to this, the ultimate cover-up, a satirical artist friend of mine once produced a spoof newspaper banner that announced, "Shocking news, billions face death." His expose pointed out the startling fact that within little more than 100 years, everyone now alive would be dead. Obvious, of course, when you think about it, but that's just what most of us try not to do. Think about it. As the Buddhist sage Milarepa put it, "Strong and healthy, who thinks of sickness until it strikes like lightning? Preoccupied with the world, who thinks of death until it arrives like thunder?" More than 250,000 people die every day. Stop and imagine that for a moment. All that fear and suffering and loss and release and revelation happening right now. Whether you come to this book as someone curious about death or facing your own imminent death or grieving for the loss of a loved one, make no mistake about it, you are not alone. We face death together. It is the human condition. Death is not an optional experience. Your mother bequeathed you with your death when she gave you your birth, from your first breath until your last breath. It is inevitable. Every year most of us celebrate our birthday. It is unsettling to think that each year we also pass by an anonymous date that will become our death day. Although we assume tomorrow will always come, one day it won't. and the day that is our last may be today. Statistically, we may know approximately how many people will die each day, but we don't know who. It could be me. It could be you. It could be one of those we love so dearly. Is it morbid and depressing to think such thoughts? The answer from contemporary culture is yes. Although over the last few decades attitudes have begun to change, death remains a taboo subject to be politely sidestepped or dismissed quickly with glib platitudes and a grim smile. It is something quite simply we wish didn't exist. Our health professionals treat death as a failure of modern medicine to keep us alive. Bereavement is regarded as if it were an unfortunate psychological condition from which we need to recover, or an annoying impediment to ordinary life with which we must learn to cope. We encourage the old to be obsessed by youth. We tell the terminally ill that they will be better soon. Better a sweet lie than the bitter truth. After all, life must go on. Why are we so frightened of death? That sounds like a stupid question because the answer seems so obvious. We don't know what death is and fear it may be the perpetual darkness. What we do know about death we don't like. It takes away our loved ones. It ridicules our dreams and aspirations. It robs us of our wealth and achievements. It is something we are hardwired in our biological makeup to resist and prevent at all costs. Yet not everyone treats death as the enemy. Since the most ancient of times, there have been many extraordinary men and women for whom death is a friend. A great teacher, not a thief. A revealer of the truth, who challenges us to discover that our true identity is not the mortal body, which will undoubtedly turn back into the dust from which it came. The legendary Egyptian sage Hermes Trismegistus teaches, most people are ignorant of the truth and therefore afraid of death, believing it to be the greatest of all evils. But death is only the dissolution of a worn-out body. For the saints and sages, death is the revelation that we are not the limited physical form we usually take ourselves to be, but something greater and more glorious. Death is transformation, not extinction. Death is a new beginning as well as an end. Death is not the perpetual darkness, but a glimpse of eternal splendor. Death is not meaningless. It is the fulfillment of life. As the Sufi sage Rumi writes, I have often heard it said, life would be great if it didn't end in death. What nonsense! Without death, life is meaningless, like a harvest left to rot.